Leo Tolstoy, a renowned Russian writer and philosopher, expressed his thoughts on theology and politics in his works What I Believe, The Kingdom of God is Inside You, and Letter to a Hindu. In What I Believe, Tolstoy examines his evolving religious and philosophical beliefs. He rejects institutionalized religion, seeing it as a distortion of true Christianity. He emphasizes the importance of personal spiritual experience and moral living. Tolstoy advocates for a Christianity rooted in the teachings of Jesus Christ, particularly the Sermon on the Mount. He believes in nonviolence, compassion, and the pursuit of justice. Tolstoy criticizes the hypocrisy and corruption he observes within the Russian Orthodox Church, as well as the Church's support for state power and violence. He argues that true faith should be based on love, humility, and the recognition of the equality of all people. In The Kingdom of God is Inside You, Tolstoy expands on his ideas about nonviolence and the rejection of state power. He critiques the coercive nature of government and questions the legitimacy of state-sanctioned violence, including war and capital punishment. Tolstoy argues that the true kingdom of God is not a physical or political entity, but a spiritual state that resides within each individual. He advocates for individual conscience and the rejection of violence in all forms. Tolstoy's concept of non-resistance emerges strongly, asserting that one should not respond to violence with violence, but instead resist evil through non-violent means. In Letter to a Hindu, Tolstoy responds to an Indian correspondent, Taraknath Das, who was an Indian independence activist and scholar who played a significant role in the early 20th century Indian nationalist movement. He was born on June 15, 1884, in Kanchrapa, Bengal, which was then under British colonial rule. Das's early life was marked by his pursuit of education and a strong desire for social justice. He attended the Scottish Church College in Kolkata, where he became involved in revolutionary politics and joined the Ashulyan Samati, a secret society advocating for Indian independence. Inspired by his nationalist sentiments and a desire to fight against British colonialism, Das traveled to the United States in 1906. In the United States, Das became a prominent figure within the Indian nationalist movement. He actively campaigned for India's independence, giving speeches and lectures across the country and writing articles that critiqued British imperialism. Das's efforts gained him recognition among both Indian and American intellectuals and activists, and he collaborated with figures like Rabindranath Tagore and W.E.B. Du Bois. Das's commitment to the cause of Indian independence has led him to participate in various organizations and movements. He became a member of the Gadara Party, a revolutionary organization seeking to overthrow British rule in India. He also worked with the Indian National Congress and established the India Home Rule Society in the United States. Throughout his life, Das focused on raising awareness about the plight of the Indian people under British colonial rule. He published several influential books, including India's Problem, Krishna or Christ, and India in Bondage. In these works, he examined the social and economic and political issues faced by India and advocated for the rights and liberation of his fellow countrymen. Das's tireless efforts and dedication to the cause of Indian independence left a lasting impact on the nationalist movement. He continued his activism until his death on December 22, 1958, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Taraknath Das remains an important figure in the history of Indian independence, celebrated for his unwavering commitment to justice and his contribution to the fight against colonialism. Tolstoy, in his letter, questions the violence employed by those fighting for independence from British colonial rule. Tolstoy expresses his admiration for the Indian people's struggle for freedom and emphasizes the importance of nonviolent resistance. He draws parallels between the Indian struggle and his own beliefs on nonviolence, highlighting the potential power of nonviolent action in achieving political and social change. Tolstoy argues that nonviolence is not only a moral imperative, but also a pragmatic strategy that can lead to true liberation and lasting peace. Overall, Tolstoy's thoughts in these works revolve around his rejection of institutionalized religion, his emphasis on personal spirituality and moral living, and his advocacy for nonviolence and non-resistance. He calls for individuals to reject violence, question state authority, and live in accordance with their conscience. Tolstoy's writings had a profound influence on movements such as nonviolent resistance, civil disobedience, and pacifism, inspiring figures like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr.